Greetings all. Welcome to another session here of Tuzi Talks. My name is Dr. Frank Tuzi. We'll be talking a little bit today about the socio-cultural perspectives in second language learning, second language acquisition. Today we'll be looking at the socio-cultural theory. We'll be applying some of these ideas to the whole concept of second language learning. We'll also be looking at how this idea, this socio-cultural perspective, can be used in evaluation. You'll note it's going to be a little different than when we looked at things from a cognitive point of view perspective or from a behavioralist perspective. So we're going to see a little difference here. Let's begin with a little introduction. We're going to be looking at the second language learning and the theories involved from a socio-cultural perspective. We're going to be looking at some of the works of James Lantoff, and more importantly, we'll be looking at Vygotskian theories. Now, Vygotsky was a researcher in child development. He was from Russia, and most of his work was not actually published in English. If you go look at a little bit of the history of Vygotsky, you'll note that a lot of his work was ignored for a long time, but eventually his primary document that was published in English was published, and a lot of things that he had written about became rather popular, not only in behavioral sciences, but for us also in language learning. So he is a very important character and writer today because of that. Of course, he's no longer living, but the works that he had done has definitely had a definite influence on language acquisition theories and also second language, language teaching in general. Learning in general, to be honest. He definitely has a great influence because of the things that he noticed about learning and acquisition. We'll be talking a little bit also about mediated activities. You have to understand the way that language is used to perform certain things. Using language as a thought tool, okay, and it's going to impact our world. So the way that we think, the language that we use is going to impact the world, okay? So language will impact our actions. It'll impact the tools we create. At the same time, the tools that we create, for example, writing as a tool, writing came after language, is going to impact our thought. So the tools that we use to help us communicate language is actually going to impact the way that language operates in the brain. Look today with the whole concept of chatting in the internet or text messaging, and we now have new words and new ways of communicating, and those new words, those new ways of communicating are impacting the way we think. So that's what we're going to see as far as language impacting thought, but also the tools that we create also impacting thought. So learning is mediated via language and other social elements. And we're going to look at the social elements today, but we're going to recognize that simply the tools that we create are going to impact our thinking. All right, from Vygotsky and his research, what things were pulled out that we as second language learners, second language learning theorists have pulled out and tried to appropriate and apply to this whole field. Okay, one of them is the concept of regulation. And by regulation, we're talking about how things were limited and controlled at some point. Ideas, thoughts, language. So first, it's by others. So when you're a little tot or when you're new in language, the language is regulated by the other people who are teaching you, people who are influencing you. Eventually, you appropriate things and it becomes yours, okay? So it's introduced into a shared knowledge, okay? You and I'm giving you limited information, and there's scaffolding that's involved because the other person is helping me, whether I'm a little tot or whether I'm learning a second language. They're helping me. And then eventually I appropriate these things, and then finally I can do things all by myself. That's that three-step process. That was the concept of regulation. Okay? He also talked about the zones of proximal development. And these were areas or zones where you had greater control. In the center, you had complete control over what was going on. This is me, and I'm working here, and I can do all of this by myself. But there's also this area out here where I need help. I need help in order to learn to do something. I need help in order to understand something. Now, as that individual zone increases, now I can do more, okay? And then I have the independent zone or the interdependent zone out there that's also going to help me. The problem will be that eventually you're going to get to this area, and in that area, even if I give you, from that point on, even if I give someone help, even if someone helps me to try to understand something, it's beyond me and it's not going to work anymore. So there are these zones where development can take place. There's the inner circle, okay, which I can do all by myself. I don't need anybody's help. And then there's the zone that's next to that where I need help. That's that scaffolding area. And then there's the outer zone where not going to help me regardless. I'm not going to learn. So this concept of zones of proximal development and scaffolding that's going to help in that area were all ideas from Vygotsky. Other things from his research were things like collaborative learning, that learning passed through generations, for example. So I get learning because I learned from other people in previous generations. In the field of research, we say standing on the shoulders of those who came before. Somebody learned something before, and I build on top of that. And so I continue building research. Well, that's learning that's passing through generations. We also have learning passing through your entire life, from when you're a little kid all the way passing through until you are an adult. There's this learning process that's going on with other people. Okay? So we still have this collaborative learning. One is generational, one is just your own life. And then there are other types of learning as well. There's local learning is generally where it is. It's local, it's contextualized within a specific environment and task. And so that's how one area of learning that's going to have an impact from Vygotsky, because it is local to you and it's contextualized with you. There are also ways that we use speech that indicate that there's this other around. So one example is just private speech. I find it interesting that we talk to ourselves. We do talk to ourselves, don't we? Yes. Yes, we do. And why do we do that? Well, that's one way that we're trying to learn, is simply by hearing what we say. Okay. There's also inner speech, when you're just talking in your mind to help guide your thoughts, to help you to try to understand. Okay? And I mean, you do that. You talk to yourself, right, in your mind. You also talk out loud. What I find interesting is that and we'll talk about this a little later, why we talk out loud and why we think. When do we do which? In any event, let's move on. We'll talk a little bit about activity theory here. Now, activity theory basically comes out of some of the ideas from Vygotsky's research, and talking about how in this zone of proximal development, we're doing things. Okay, and activity is just that. It's where you're performing a given event, task, performance in a given environment. You're doing it in a location, okay? And I don't mean a physical location necessarily, but it's in some kind of an environment that you're doing this activity. The activity you're doing is in collaboration with others, even if the other is your mind. You're doing it in collaboration, and there's subjectivity that's going on. Well, that's good enough, or this is correct, but I'm eyeballing it. I'm not actually measuring it, type of thing. Or it's a feeling, right? Some type of subjectivity. So there's some performance being done in collaboration in a given environment, and there's subjectivity that's involved. These activities can be internal or external, or both. It can be an actual physical activity, it can be a mental activity, or it can be both. And the activities are typically designed to be done in order to achieve a goal or an object. When I say a goal, an object, or an idea, okay, there's something that you're trying to complete, this particular activity. This sounds very similar to task-based language teaching, although it's not so much focused on the task, but a smaller element of that, which could be called an activity. Now, activity theory is embracing more of a holistic approach to learning. We're not looking just at grammar, just at speaking. We're not looking at just the processes that's going on in the brain. It's everything together that's trying to complete this activity. Okay, so it's everything that's going on all at once, including the other people, right, in order to perform this activity. So it's more of a higher level, looking down at everything type of thing, instead of looking at the details like the other theories that we had been studying look like. Let's take a look at how we apply this idea of socio-cultural theory to second language learning. If we look at first language learning, you see that when a kid begins to grow and they begin to learn language, okay, they're using language because they're trying to express something. They're trying to make meaning out of something. Okay, they're not trying to learn the structure of language. They're not trying to learn new vocabulary or learn how to pronounce. No, they're trying to express an idea. Like they want their bottle, or they want to take a bath, or they want a banana, or whatever it is. They're trying to express a meaning, trying to express some kind of a meaning. And that's what activity theory is kind of looking like as well. Now, for second language learners, they can make more tools to learn language because they have their first language and they have their second language. Okay, because many can use both their mind and their environmental, I'm in the environment type of thing, and figuring out things non-logically. They can do both, so they can make tools to learn language. Okay, and primarily what we're talking about here is language tools, right? Using writing and the like. They can also look at language as a more of a unified impact and relationship in all the areas of research. In other words, as an activity, you're not only looking at the cognitive aspects, you're not only looking at the social aspects or the psychological aspect, the behavioralist type of things. You're looking at everything all together. It's kind of this unified, everything is all in one basket, and let's use all the tools we have to complete the activity. And the activity is really the focus. The focus is not on actually language learning. So again, it's more of a holistic type of approach, and it embraces all the relationships in the other areas of second language acquisition research. Interesting play that way, and again, I would think that some would like to be able to look at all the pieces all at once. As you well know, there are others that want to look at more specific areas and see how they can improve that area or understand that given area so that the whole can be improved upon. In other words, second language acquisition. All right, let's apply a little bit more here when we talk about private speech. Why do we use private speech? Why do we use private speech? Why is it that when we're reading a text, we have difficulty understanding the text? You pick up a book here and we're trying to read the text and we're like, and you read it once and you don't understand and you stop and maybe you read it again and that's still not working. And what do? You start to speak the words. You start to speak the words. Why is that happening? You've got that private speech. You've got that internal mental speech. Well, there's a relationship. There's a systematic relationship between the use of private speech and the level of difficulty of the given task. And typically, when the task is difficult to understand, we begin to use private speech. Why? So we can hear it and better analyze it. Okay, there's that other type of thing. My carbon copy of me that I'm using. I'm using my physical hardware so that I can hear it again and reanalyze it type of thing. And for second language private speech, they do similar things. One of the things that they do is they repeat. Okay? My thought here is, and this is now me jumping in, they repeat because they don't know how else to do this. They try to say it again, and they'll say it again, and say it. They're still trying to analyze. They just don't know how to say it properly, or say it in a different way, or ask questions because they may lack the language. But they're doing this in order to try to help them understand. That's their secondary player, though. That's their zone of proximal development. Someone's there helping them, right? They're doing meta-analysis of their speech, right? Someone makes a mistake, and all of a sudden that person corrects their language. That second language learner is correcting their language. Why? Because they're trying to master this themselves. Or maybe they're trying to answer the question in their own mind when you're dealing with language learning. Well, it's interesting to see how this private and inner speech actually plays out in the individual, not only in first language use, but also in second language acquisition. Take a look at activity now in smaller groups. So we take activity theory, we take these Vygotskian ideas applied to activity theory, and look at them and how we can use them in a small group. So now we're going to have a small group creating some sort of an activity, doing some sort of an activity, right? That's what you do with small groups. You got this, hey, I got this thing right here, and I'm going to give it to this small group, and I want you to do this task, right? So you're giving them an activity to complete. And you're not focusing necessarily on language, you're not focusing necessarily on vocabulary, although you may need these to complete your activity type of thing. The focus is now on the activity. So you've got small groups, and you need to take into account individual objectives. You as a teacher need to realize, I'm giving them this task. Here, do this activity, but you need to recognize the individuals within the group may have different goals, may have different objectives. Another aside here, let me get on a soapbox. I hate when students say to me, how many pages does this paper have to be? Their goal is not my goal. My goal is for them to take the task at hand and fulfill it. Complete the objectives, as good as possible. Well, the objectives, can I do this in 2 pages? Can I do this in 4 pages? I don't know. Complete the objective. It may take you more. It may take you less. But if I say 2 pages, most of my students, they're just going to do 2 pages. They're focused on completing that's their goal. That's their objective. Getting a grade. My objective is for them to analyze the concept, the topic, the project, and complete it. I have a different goal than they do. Okay, I'd like them to have my goal, but I, as a teacher, I need to recognize they may not, right? So remember that the language learners, they bring their own goals. They bring their own ideas to the process, regardless of what the project is that I create, regardless of what the objective is of the activity. I got students bringing their own activities. Maybe they want to learn more. Maybe they want to eat up vocabulary. Maybe they just want to get out of class as quickly as possible. Okay, their objectives are going to be different. So, when I'm creating activities, I should think about language learner ownership to increase language learning. So when I'm doing an activity, I want to make sure that they own some of this. As an owner of the activity, they're going to be more motivated to want to accomplish the actual tasks given rather than just get a grade. Okay, and that's, again, the goal of the teacher there, right? So think about ownership. Think about the objectives that the individuals may be bringing to the task. Scaffolding. One of the ways that you learn to live without scaffolding is for every now and again, take it away. You provide it, you take it away. You provide it, you provide it, you take it away, you provide it, you take it away. And by moving in and out, students begin to learn how to appropriate things and do things by themselves. And that's what you want. You want independent learners. I've always said that the goal of a language teacher is to get rid of their job so that students no longer need them because they're independent learners. Our goal is for them to become independent learners so that they can learn and continue learning language without your help. Okay, without your help. The problem is, for many teachers in many years, the goal was to give them information. Yes, I want to give them information, but I want them to be independent learners so they don't need me anymore. They can go on and learn a language without my help. Okay, that's one of the things that scaffolding is going to do. Providing more explicit feedback, okay, I get better noticing because now I'm forcing them to notice certain things. Right? I put all this help in here, and I give them information out here, things that I want them to look for, right? Give them things that I want them to look for. Now they're able to look at those things, notice those things, and hopefully take those things that are out there and pull them into the inner circle. Things that now they can control. If I go the other direction, right, if I require less feedback, now they have greater control. Now they can be more independent, right? They can have more control and have a less focus on things because they're controlling them, okay? Just like you when you're learning the piano, when you're learning to drive, learning to ride the bike. At first, you're trying to notice everything. Eventually, you gain control over that, and now it becomes less of a focus on those individual components and more on other things, right? So this whole idea here of moving in and out in order to show them, get them to notice, get them to try to take control over certain aspects. So the scaffolding goes in and out. Okay, let's take a look at evaluation. The field of socio-cultural theory is new, relatively new with regard to language learning. So there's going to be more research that needs to be done into this field. Hint, hint. Anybody interested in going this route? The theory seeks to view language learning as a whole. Okay, so this is more holistic. It's not compartmentalized. We're not looking at Chomskyan theory or the black box or the language box or we're not looking just at input or just at output. We're not looking at the vocabulary gap or any of these areas that are compartmentalized. Okay, We're going to look at everything as a whole. Well, that's good for language classrooms because now they can look at the whole language. They can use the whole thing. It's going to be bad for people who are cognitivists, socialists, or psychologists who want to look at language in those specific and given areas. Now, I say it's good for language classrooms and bad for the researchers. You want to research cognitivism and language learning, go right ahead. My opinion is we need both the bottom-up type of thing and we need the top-down. We need both areas of research. But socio-cultural theory is going to look at the whole. It's going to look at the top-down. It'll look at all the big stuff. And again, it views language as a tool for thought, ways that I can control my thoughts and ideas because I can articulate them either in my mind or, verbally in a written tool. It does not offer a comprehensive view of second language acquisition. So, socio-cultural theory is a theory about language learning, is a theory about learning in general and can be applied to second language acquisition. But it is not a theory of second language acquisition. It's a theory of activities, right? So we're going to take a look at that and understand that this socio-cultural theory is not a theory for all of second language acquisition, right? It's just a theory that can be applied to, right? Remember that. All learning is first social. I tell you, when I first thought of this, I thought, that's not right. It should be first individual. Well, I can't get individual without the other. And so the authors here are correct. And this is Miles and Mitchell's textbook, by the way. It's first social and then individual, right? It's first intermental, between me and somebody else, right? And then intramental, me and myself. Me thinking about something, okay? So, but first I got to get it from the other. So, evaluation. That's all I have for this section here. I do thank you for stopping by. If you do have any questions, please drop me a note, and I